So, so we are live here. Chairman, can you play the team song?
That's
You hear?
right.
There you go.
Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known. In a circle podcast where hearts unite, sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known. Let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. There we go. Oh man, right on time, right on cue. Right on time. So thanks, everyone. Thanks to our audience for joining us. We want to welcome everyone. Today is going to be a great show. We have a candidate for District 38A, and as you can see, Osseo and Southwest Broken Park. You know, that's a district that if you live in Broken Park, if you live in the northwest suburb, you should be familiar with that district. But today we're going to be speaking with Madam Huda. How can I say last name? Hisley, right?
Yes, that's good. Yes.
So today we're going to be having a great discussion. So we want to welcome all our audience. If you're out there, we encourage you to please engage. Make comments, ask a question. Right? This election is very important. Even if you don't live in the district, you might learn something tonight that might educate you about the November 5th election. So we want to welcome everyone out there. We want to say thanks for accepting our invitation, Madam Huda. We appreciate you coming on here. This platform is to educate our folks in Minnesota and basically over the United States. So thank you for coming on. First, I will take this opportunity for my panelists here. I'm your host tonight, Abraham Kamara. I would just like to go around the room for my panelists to quick introduce themselves, then we can, dive in there. Now.
I'm Melvin Lionel Zia. Ms. Huda, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Titus.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm Titus. Nice having you. I look forward to learning a lot from your platform tonight. And thanks for coming.
Ms. B.
Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Miss B here, and welcome, Huda. Welcome here tonight. Thank you for coming.
Okay, and my co-host, Sam White. You're on mute.
Well, it's a pleasant good evening to you, and thank you for honoring our invitation. And thank you for being here on time.
Okay, with that, so Ms. Huda, first, we want to give you the opportunity to please introduce yourself to our audience. For those that don't know you, want to give you the platform to please introduce yourself, and then we can dive in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. When you say introduce yourself, I want to make sure that I'm hitting the points that you want me to hit, right? I can give you my whole life story, but maybe that might not be what you guys are looking for. So I'll keep it very short and simple because I definitely want to get into the questions and really get, like you said, right, educate our community about what's at stake, in this whole entire civic engagement process, right? So I'm Hulda Hiltsley, and it's truly an honor to be a part of this platform. I know that this platform has influence in our community, and so when Ms. B, reached out and said, "Hey, we're giving you space to come out here, talk about yourself, talk about this process, talk about what's at stake," I couldn't say no. And when Ms. B calls, you have to show up, right? So here I am on time, not African time, on time to really engage with this group. So yes, so I migrated here when I was 9 years old. I've lived in the U.S. For 30 years now. And I went to Cooper High School, local high school here. And then I went to Bethel University, did my undergrad. I did international business, international relations, and reconciliation studies. And then I also got my master's in global business management. Currently, I work at Boston Scientific, managing their global privacy program globally. And so I'm passionate about that, but really what keeps me up at night, is our community, right? If you look at my, lived experiences and really what I've invested a lot of my time besides, paying my bills, is making sure that we are fighting for progress within our community and trying to let the key stakeholders who are sitting at the table know that we are here and that we have needs, and those needs to be addressed. And so over the last few years here, I've looked at the state of our community, especially being in a district that is so diverse, and that diversity really comes down to, if you're looking at race, we are the most diverse district in the whole entire state of Minnesota, and yet we don't have representation, right? So that is one of the reasons why I decided to run, to bring that voice, especially the African immigrant, African American voice that is missing from this district at the Capitol. So with that, please ask me other questions. I can go on about all the other stuff that I've done, and I
For
have a
sure.
plan, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely get into that. So
Go
thank you
ahead.
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. That's a great short intro right there. Just to get into things, can you like describe your district for those that are not familiar with District 38A, please?
Yes. So when you hear SD 38A, what does that mean? That is the Senate District 38, and then each Senate district, they have two sides. So I am on the A side of Senate District 38. So if you break it down a little bit further, it's House District A. Right. So within the Senate District 38, we have a senator, right? Her name is Susan Pa, Senator Susan Pa. And then on the B side, we have the current representative there is Samantha Bang. And then on the A side, now that this seat that I'm running for, the current representative who announced his retirement is Mike Nelson. So that is the whole of West and a little bit of Central Brooklyn Park and the whole entire Osseo, the city of
Yeah.
Osseo. Yeah.
Okay. What is this your first time running for political office? And if so, I mean, what inspired you to to get into politics?
Yeah, so great question. This is not the first time I've ran for a political seat. I actually ran last election cycle for the Senate, Senate District 38. And we put in a really great work. And obviously, we didn't come out as the winners for that race. But you know what, though? I look back now, right? And the lessons that I learned as a first time candidate running in this space that I had no idea as a brand new individual in this space of being a candidate, right? And so carrying those lessons into now this election cycle. And you asked me, why? My why hasn't changed. The passion I have for this community and the state of Minnesota as a whole, and seeing really the gap of that representation, and a big piece of it too. Is education, right? When I first got, involved, I've been involved in politics, right? Supporting candidates back when I started getting involved in politics when Obama ran, right? Like that's most of us. That's when we all were like, there's this thing called politics, right? When Obama came onto the scene. And so ever since then, I've literally engaged myself and really been intentional about understanding this process. And one of the things that really pushed me to run and be a candidate is the educational piece, awareness to our community, where most of us don't exercise this privilege we have, of participating in the political process and also voting. And then obviously making sure that, we have representation, people who understand, our core challenges that we face. And we're going to go into that.
Yeah.
So my why hasn't changed from the last election cycle to this cycle. It's just been amplified. Now I'm really excited and passionate, even more than I've ever been before, that we too belong in this space, and we are going to do it, but we'll have to do it together.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Well, folks, having some great conversation here tonight. So I will give my panelists the opportunity. Co-host Sam, anything from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the district, I just pulled up the district here. It's a big district, and just wanting to know, it's a very diverse district too. What are some of the challenges that you have identified in that district that you are planning to focus on?
And I want to make sure that I'm answering your question right. Are you talking about the biggest issues that
Absolutely.
at the doors, or me as a candidate, the challenges? Because that's two different.
Well, some of the things that you hope to
Okay. Yeah.
see become different within that district.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you for that clarification. I think for me, and especially when it comes to this district and what I'm hearing from the doors ever since we started engaging in this process back, in 2022, one of the biggest things is equitable housing, what that looks like, and all of us are in different stages of life. And those different stages of life brings their own complexity. And housing, when it comes to housing, a young person who just graduated from college, are they looking to buy a house right now? Probably not. So what does rent look like for them? For those small families, for individuals who have started, their young families, maybe now they're in the position of looking for a home. What does that look like? So basically, we don't have enough diversified housing options that are affordable for the population in this district. That's one. Number two, I look where you come from, or you're affiliated with, your background, all of that stuff. We are all humans, right? And public, when you feel safe, the safety doesn't cut through any of those things that we talked about. So making sure that, we are looking at sustainable ways of addressing the root causes of public safety, and not just band-aids, right? For the longest time, I've seen, programs come in and go out, grants, being offered to, those people who are on the front lines, right? To address public safety, when we can actually enact policies and laws that address the really core root of public safety. And that has to be centered around a very effective youth programming and supporting programming that has shown our results in terms of really providing an environment where our young people don't have to sit here and try to figure out how do we become productive in our community, and don't fall into those tendencies of getting themselves in trouble. So those two things. And then the last thing I probably put in there, because I can go on about, the different topics. But I would say, making sure that I hear a lot, especially young families who want to be productive members of our economy, especially our small businesses, not having that luxury because of, childcare costs and what that looks like, right? If we are able to provide, support for childcare and addressing that childcare cost, we will have an opportunity for a lot of these families. I'm going to use myself as an example, right? My husband stays at home with the kids because we can't afford childcare, and so definitely childcare is something that I keep on hearing. And then lastly, our small businesses. As we continue to see the changes that are happening within our district, we are seeing some amazing diversity of businesses, small businesses within our community. And what are we doing to really address the specific challenges, the cultural challenges, you name it, all of our small businesses? We have great ideas, but having access to resources for small businesses to tap into, or even the small businesses who literally went through COVID-19 and are still somehow, some way, still standing? What are we doing to continue to support those small businesses so that they can, thrive? And because if they're thriving, that means they're hiring from our community. They're staying here, and we're providing employment for our community. So we're not having our community go somewhere else. We're not taking those taxes away from our community. And so definitely making sure that we champion resources and small businesses within this district.
Okay, and just real quick before I go, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah. So one more question. So the current representative of that district, is that Michael Nelson?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And he's serving his 11th term.
That's accurate. He's been in office for 22 years. Yes, that's accurate. If you're looking at it, because every house.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So the question I have to you now, you wanting to come into that space, why you? Why should we consider you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, for the longest time, our current representative, for his own, right, he's focused on what's important to him. And there's nothing wrong with that. We applaud all the work that he's putting in, especially into, strengthening the union aspect of this district and the whole entire state of Minnesota. Because a lot of times, when we think about, somebody who's running, a candidate who's running, we sometimes forget that these people are passing laws once they're at the Capitol for the whole entire state of Minnesota. So, I'll give him, his stars for everything that he's put in within the district, but I believe that we can do more. I believe that representation within this district and the unique challenges that we continue to see as our community evolve, they're not being addressed right now. And so that's why I'm running, and that's why I believe not only am I addressing the things that he's, championed, but I'm also bringing in a fresh, new perspective and a fresh voice into this district. Somebody who's going to go out there and champion and bring people in. One of the things that I found to be very I found that the feedback that we kept on giving our legislators was that come back to the community, talk to the community, when there are bills being enacted. How many times has Ms. B been at the Capitol trying to, her and her team trying to fight for this legislators to come back to the people and ask, hey, what's important? Hey, there's a bill here and we need people to testify. How many of us have been to the Capitol and actually testified? That's how these funds are being distributed. And that has not happened, to the point where all of us feel like we're included. And I believe, I can bring that to the table and always come back to the community and say, hey, this is how this bill is going to affect our community. Or, hey, is there a bill that you guys want to champion, and really work with the community to build that and fight for that at the Capitol.
Just before I go to my next panelist here, for the sake of our audience, are you running on a political party ticket?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So we, by winning the primary here in August 13th, we did secure the DFL endorsement. So on the November ballot, if you're looking at your ballot, I will be there as the DFL candidate on the ballot.
Okay, thank you. Mel?
Yeah, Miss Madam Huda, thank you for joining us here tonight. I know you kind of play a lot of emphasis on representation, so that's huge. We really commend you for standing up, and that's brave and a lot of encouragement. A lot of young people coming up will kind of, come after you. As you mentioned, we spoke of the diversity of the district you are running for, which is evidence from what we've seen, right? My question to you tonight will be, what plans do you have in place to get the community involved, looking at the level of diversity the community is, like the district you're running for is?
Yeah, great question. Oh my goodness, you guys are asking some really good questions. For me, it's about creating an environment where everybody feels valued, right? Especially with the various different communities that we have within the district. So, when you break the district down, from the race aspect of it, it's 33% Black, and then it's 35% white, and then all these other communities, right, follows. So, and if you break it further down, especially in this forum, as we're addressing the African diaspora, right, we have different communities, whether that is, when you look at it from a country perspective. My family's from Kenya. There's a big, obviously, this district, the Liberian community really commands when it comes to the population aspect of this district. We have a large population of Liberians in this community. And you go on, right? Nigerians, Tanzanians, Ugandans, you name it. And I think there has been a leadership vacuum, right? There's a lot of things that we're doing good individually, but we haven't been able to come together and say, this is the African agenda for our community, right? And that's a gap that has been there for quite a long time. And I know there's amazing key leaders in our community who's been trying to bring that together. But I feel like with securing this sit, and again, I was running, against my brother, right, Russell Winfred, and the conversation we always had prior to the primary was whoever who wins this seat has to have the ability to bring all of us together so that we can have a conversation, an honest conversation about, what does that look like as a block, as an African immigrant block, and what do those numbers look? Because we can sit here and yell on top of our lungs about we have numbers, but we can mobilize those numbers to actually bring in the change that we want to see. All we're going to be is just we have numbers, and we have meetings that we talk and nothing comes out of it. And so my goal is to bring all of these key different stakeholders to the table, and I'm going to do that through bringing in value, right? If you think about, why would somebody come if I'm going to call them to come to the table, right? My goal is to bring in and literally educate our community about what value is it that that is there if we end up coming together. Coming from the Capitol, if you look at the last legislative cycle, $17 billion, y'all, with a B, not million, 17 billion. And because we weren't at the table, guess how much actually came back to the African immigrant community? Ms. B has been there. She's the one who was fighting for some of these resources. It's nothing, but guess where most of these resources went into? It went into the people who were at the table, championing their communities, championing their agendas, championing, what the needs of their community was. And we're not at the table. And
Okay.
so that's the value that I want to bring to bringing all of us together and making sure that all of us understand what's at stake, number one, and how we engage and what that looks like.
Okay, thank you very much. So before I go to my next panel, I get a quick follow-up question is, in that regard, what are you doing to bring out the vote? I mean, to engage this African diaspora community, especially in your district. What are you doing to engage them and to bring out the
Yes.
vote?
Yes. That has always been a top priority for me. When I first ran, the biggest challenge or the biggest issue that I had was that we don't vote, right? You can even see what happened this election cycle where, I only won by 50 votes. That's not a lot. From a district that has 21 plus thousand potential registered voters, actual registered voters. I'm not counting our kids who are 18 who are not registered, right? I'm not counting the unregistered. I'm talking about registered voters. And we were only able to turn out 1,000. I won by 50 points and I mean 50 votes, and my win number was 1,005. How many of us African immigrants can vote in this district? You can't tell me we only have 1,000 people that can vote in this district, and then Russell's 955, right? So that continues this whole aspect of our people don't vote, and I get that it's primary, and a lot of people don't pay attention to the primaries. But my team, going back to your question, I want to answer it. My team had been very vocal about voter education, talking to our community about what that looks like. Voting doesn't just happen in November. This whole process starts way back in February, where we are caucusing, where we're, getting our people to show up and be delegates. And then you move from that first step to the convention, right? Which happens between April and May. That's where now the party conventions happens, and that's where the endorsement, takes place. And then from there, obviously, there's a primary. The primary happens, and then the general election. So we have been very intentional about specifically reaching out to the African immigrant community this time around. Especially, we had two African candidates, right? And so, personally, I feel like we could have done more. Yes, we were out there door knocking, we were out there phone banking, sending text messages, going to events, inserting ourselves in whatever possible, community engagement that was there. But even with two African candidates on the ballot, we only turned out what? It was less than 2,000 people. That goes to show you that as a community, not just candidates ourselves, but as a community, we have a long way to go in terms of mobilizing and getting our people out. And that comes down to what I said earlier, bringing and really communicating the value of why our people should participate.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that great answer. Miss B, any question for Miss Huda?
So, Sam talked about the challenges that the residents are facing. What are some of the challenges you, our candidate, are facing? I think you kind of already kind of alluded to turning out the vote. What are some of the challenges that you're still probably facing, and how can we support you moving into November 5th?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Now that I'm in this space as a candidate, this is not a point of conversation. Nobody goes to the candidate and says, "How are you doing? What are the challenges that you're facing?" And being an African immigrant and being a woman of color in this space, there's a lot of challenges that comes with that. For example, when you're out there and people are questioning, your skill set, whether you are qualified enough, and they have their assumptions about who you are, and you have to sit here and work twice as hard to convince that person that, yes, I'm actually really qualified, I'm actually really smart, I actually know what the heck I'm talking about, right? So that's one of the challenges that I face, being, a person of color, and all of us have experienced those challenges in our own sphere of influence and in our own communities. So that's one. Number two for me is this two-edged sword, right? There's this expectations that I see, especially from our community, saying, if you don't come talk to me directly, you're not going to get my support. And I'm sitting here going, I have like 31,000 people that I need to reach. And so that expectation, and I get it. It's also rooted in culture. And I try to really keep that in mind in terms of how to gauge our community, besides the other communities, right? So not only do I have to engage our community differently in terms of my messaging, but also I have to go out there and also be appealing to the rest of the constituency who might not look like me, who might not come from the same background as me. And you have to balance those two things because, I remember a conversation I had with an African brother, right? And in my head, I'm like, I am here, I'm showing up. And he was like, I don't know you. Just because you're African, I'm not going to vote for you. And I'm definitely not expecting, people to vote for me because of, our common connection of the African continent. But obviously vote for me because they truly believe I am the right candidate for this position. But we have to keep in mind, I always say this, that the other communities have mobilized. We have seen what Somalis have done. They have literally mobilized, and we can't sit here and say Somalis are taking everything from the rest of us. No, what they've discovered is the power of mobilizing and coming together and realizing their shared values,
Sure.
right? The white community has done a great job of that. Look at what the Hmong community did for the Senate race. The fact that I lost this seat to Samantha Susan Pa, the current senator right now, when we have the numbers, that goes to show you that we still need to come together as a community and realize the power that we have in our numbers. And we haven't truly activated that.
Okay, thank you for that. Tadas?
Ms. Oda, thank you so much for being here and seeing you as an immigrant taking this making this move and taking this position within our community is so inspiring. Power to you and keep going. So I look at your platform a little bit. Really impressive platform. And from what you've been talking about, it seems that we have a challenge, obviously, in our community as immigrants. Just engaging the process and being having a position on the table with your platform and how you strategize to draw it up. How did you come up with different points that would affect the immigrant community? And were you able to have any type of immigrant community participation within drawing up that platform?
Absolutely. So for me, one of the reasons why, again, as I said earlier, why I decided to run is because we are not presented, especially when we have the types of numbers in regards to the population in this district. So I have always been intentional about, involving the African immigrant community in this process. And one of the best things that, my team and I were able to secure is Ms. B, right? I don't know if she's made this public yet, but everybody knows that the people who are in this space know that she is my African immigrant advisor slash director. And she has done a fantastic job of literally mobilizing the African immigrant community, especially the West African, and then obviously her connections to the East African community, and bringing all of us together in terms of saying this is not a Western African. That's the one of the battles that we continue to fight within the primaries, and making sure that she created an environment where our campaign was inclusive of everybody, right? So she brought in key leaders. She made sure we had meetings with key leaders and discussed really what was at stake and how we can mobilize around our community, right? So that's one piece of it, making sure that we do have a staff that represents each individual, each community within my staff, and I've been truly honored and privileged to have her insight and her leadership and her experience and her network. Let's be honest, like anybody who knows Ms. B knows that she is well connected beyond the borders of this district and around the state, right? And the work that she continues to do with ACER and the executive director Nalima Siteti Munene of ACER, and they have been champions of making sure that the educational piece about this process gets out into the community, because they've had firsthand, I don't know how many times they both have been at the Capitol lobbying. So to answer your question, one of the best things that, my campaign did was bring her on. And then obviously, she brought on people to support that effort. And that's what we're going into the general election with, having a very strong, strategy of how we engage our African immigrant community, because we have to do it different. A mailer or a text message saying, hey, vote for me is not going to do for our community. It's going to them face to face, going to the parks, for example, and meeting, a majority of our community who loves to play soccer, simple things like that, but really go a long way in terms of, letting our community know that, hey, Hulda is here because she's actually out there in the community and engaging the community directly.
Okay, thank you so much, folks. Now we'll try to open the phone lines. If there's any comments out there, if you have a question, if you have a comment from Ms. Huda, please, we want the engagement. It's like our phone number is 612-516-3349. If you have a question, hey, throw it her way. But while we wait for calls or comments to come through, Mel, do you have a question?
Yes. Yes, Ms. Huda. Like I said again, thank you. A lot of good things we touching here tonight that are insightful. I'll kind of pivot a little bit. I know we asking a lot of questions that relate to things we haven't really touched. But my question to you, Ms. Huda, I know maybe I miss it or I haven't seen it, but I think it'll be great to kind of lay those out here so people that haven't seen those or have not heard it kind of listen to you, kind of put all that out there. What are your top 3 policy priorities and why are those important to you?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned those earlier. I talked about housing and why that's important. I talked about public safety, and why that should be the cornerstone of our community. Because if we have a safe community, our businesses are thriving. We have safe homes. Our schools are thriving. You name it. And then the last one is our businesses, right? How do we support our small businesses thrive, and especially those small businesses that already are here? And then how do we create an environment where we are attracting more equitable and more diverse businesses in our district, so that we can keep all those taxes within our district? So if you ask me the top three, those are the top three that I would say that are, things that I really want to champion. And that also carries on into, I know you didn't ask this, but that carries on into the committees that I'll be a part of, right? Because a lot of the bills go through committees. And that's another educational piece that, one of these days I would love for you guys to consider the whole entire process, what that looks like. Not just participating civically. Now, how does an idea go into it gets drafted into a bill, and then how does it go all the way and get signed by the governor to make it into a law? I think when we do a lot of those, educational pieces, that's again bringing value into our community, realizing what's at stake. So those are the three top platforms that I would love to champion.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We know, you are very basic,
and I'm sorry that it's getting dark.
no,
That's
no, no. Yeah, so that's why we don't want to. Obviously, it has been some great information here tonight. We know you have a lot to share, but we don't want to keep you, sitting out there, and things like that. Obviously, these have been some great information. I think our audience, folks, are learning a lot. But we just want to give you few like last words. Sam, you want to come in a little bit?
Yeah, I just want to ask you this question, and frankly, you can answer this question as well as just do your
I
wrap
got
up.
one last question as well.
So then maybe I can ask this question, and Tyler's can ask this question, and then you can just close up
Close
by
up.
answering both of them and adding on to it. Having served still serving in the corporate world on the private sector, what is it that you can be able to, your skill set? What is it that you can transfer into this position, or this into politics? What is it that you can bring from that end into politics that our people can see and will benefit from?
I think for me, the exposure that I have gotten, not only working in corporate America and climbing that ladder, right? For a good example is this. Every time I go into a new company, I'm always looking for who is the African in here? What are they doing? Where are they at? Right? Because I don't think we do a good job of really uplifting each other when we reach certain levels, right? A good example is that, at my work right now, we have an individual who's very high, who literally reports to the CEO of Boston Scientific. And I've never seen this person in the community. And I'm sitting here going, you are sitting in that role. Like, what are we doing here? And so that has always been, my desire is to make sure that we are opening opportunities for our people to climb up. One of the things that I started at Boston Scientific is engaging with our people and say, how long have you been, working here? Somebody would tell me 5-6 years. And I'm sitting here going, the same role, or have you been promoted? The theme that I discovered is that, people were just stagnant. And I'm like, well, do you know this opportunity is available? And what I noticed is that lack of knowledge and that lack of really knowing what is available for us. And it's the same thing at the political process, right? When we don't understand what's available, when we don't understand what's at stake, we're going to stay stagnant. And we're going to sit here and always complain about why aren't we getting the resources, And then also another thing too, what I've also learned is that we ourselves have to take accountability for our own issues and challenges that we have. This is what I mean by saying that, for example, there's a grant out there and you apply for it and you get it, but you don't have the structure to support that. So we also have a role to play in making sure, as we are advocating for all of these resources that are out there, we are also ready to make sure that we are accountable. we are responsible, and we continue that path of showing however we're getting those resources, that we are accountable to this. So when you ask me how my corporate life translates into politics,
Okay.
it comes down to making sure that we are bringing awareness to the community about what's out there. Because when we
Okay.
don't know what's out there, we are not going to sit here and fight for it. But when we know, and we
Okay.
we are fought to be in this country, everybody has a story to tell about how they got here and what they
Yeah.
were going to do. But then I feel like we came here and we got settled. And we
Okay.
can't settle when there's so much opportunity for us, not only for ourselves,
Sure.
but for our community. And one last thing I want to add to that.
Okay.
For the longest time, I am passionate about Kenya, and I wanted to, go back and develop Kenya and the African continent in general. My friend, I grew up. I started having family here. I started having kids here. I took my daughter to Kenya, and she was like, "Can you take me back home?" And where was home? Home was here in America. So
Yeah.
I want to encourage our people. Yes, if you want to invest back home, please do. But keep in mind that we have to have a mind shift, that we are no longer, that the home that we came from in Africa is
Yeah.
no longer the same home. We are
Okay.
raising our families here. We're being
Mhm.
buried here. So
Okay.
investing here is definitely something that we have to start having a conversation. And the
Great.
political piece of it has to be a part of that conversation.
Great. 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 Okay, Titus, last question, and then we'll let Huda close, and then she can go. I mean, great.
Absolutely.
I'm
That
really enjoying this. Go ahead, Titus.
Yeah, I am too. That last piece sounded like Avi a little bit. That's why he's smiling so hard. But Ms. Love, thank you. What do you say to folks or especially immigrants? I don't know if I missed if you're a woman of faith, if I missed that, but what do you say to immigrants who kind of challenge your faith against your platform that supports diversity, equity, and inclusion for everyone within the community? How do you go about that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. Because, you know, especially in the African context, right? And especially for those of us who are Christ, I'm a Christ follower, and I'm proud to say that. My relationship with God is between me and God, not my neighbor, not my best friend, not my husband, is between me and God. And stepping into this space, where, I'm championing diversity, equity, inclusion, and some of those topics that I'm championing might not align with, number one, the African culture. Number two, my faith. This is how I answer that. As a Christ follower, I'm not going to sit here and impose my personal beliefs on my next door neighbor. I have no business, judging my next door neighbor how they're living their lives. That's between them and God. Number two, the Bible, if you are a true follower of Jesus Christ, this man died on the cross so that we can have free choice. And that's what democracy is. We come to this country and because of what? Because it's democracy, because of its freedoms. So when I sit here and I think about what that means, I also have to let whoever, how they're living their lives, live their lives to their fullest extent, how they see fit, understanding that my values are completely, especially my Christian values, are completely different from theirs. And I have to respect that, right? So Jesus Christ gave us free will. I also have to extend that to my a neighbor, and create an environment where, all of us are thriving in our own way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So before you go, let's want to let you go here. What's your party message? What's your closing message tonight? To the folks out there, how can they get involved? How can they support you? It's like whatever they can do for the campaign. What's the party message? What's your message for our audience, for those listening to you tonight?
Oh, all
In
right.
closing.
I am so sorry. Just in time. Here we go. All right. I actually stepped away from the Osseo City Council Forum.
Sure, sure,
So
sure. Yeah, we understand. Yep, yep. Yep.
yeah, so my message is very simple. There's power in unity. There's power in numbers. Until especially us African immigrant community realizes that, we are always going to be stagnant. We're always going to see this, election cycles come and go, and we don't see anything significantly change within our community, right? So I want to encourage our people, get involved. Please reach out to our campaign through Facebook, through our website. If you go to our website, you will find everything you need there. And give me your money. I'm not afraid to ask. In order to get, Miss B is smiling because she's like, you better say something about money. We need money because a lot of this work I'm running, I don't get paid to run. And so a lot of times some of these costs fall on my family's, finances, and I don't want that. We need people to door knock. And I definitely want to make sure that we have a strong staff to get us to win in November. So please engage with us. Come door knocking, phone banking, anything, any skill you have, please come to us and we'll put you to work. Lastly, my motto has always been, we're stronger together. I can't do this individually. I can't do this with one or two people. It's going to take the whole entire village to make this happen. And we have a really strong message to send out this election cycle, because no African or woman has ever held a seat in this district. And so that's number one. Number two, we have an opportunity to really show the rest of the state that we can do it right when we decide to mobilize, because of the numbers that we have in this district. So I'm asking all of our people, if you've never really taken interest in politics, now is the time, especially with the national landscape of what's going on. Whatever party you stand, participate, go out and vote, exercise your right to vote. Because at the end of the day, most of us come from communities and countries where, we have the word democracy, but it's not really democracy. And here is our opportunity to exercise our right to democracy. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Huda. It was great having you on. Folks, you have heard it. If you live in District 38, hey man, go onto our website, Facebook, wherever, to get a message. But thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We really appreciate it. And hopefully before November 5th, we can get you back on here, to try to encourage our people to get involved. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anytime, I am more than happy to come along and really, again, I can't emphasize enough how important platforms like this one is so important to our community, because I can go out there and do a video, or, all of these videos about engagement can come out from the DFL party, from whatever. But when it's our people talking to our people, we tend to listen, because I'm like, hey, I know that person, I can engage with them. And so continue doing what you're doing, continue educating our community. And I'm hoping, if it's God's will, that this is my seat. I want to have, whether it's like a monthly update on what's going on at the Capitol, because that's also another piece that is missing, right? We get there and we completely forget to come back to the community. So channels and opportunities and platforms like this are so key to reaching, the African immigrant community and at large, honestly, because I know that you guys have, individuals and audiences that listen beyond just the African immigrant community, because the African immigrant community is also, again, diversified. My husband is white, how many of us are married outside of the African, community? So your platform has expanded beyond just the African immigrant community. And I just want to encourage you guys to continue doing what you're doing, and I'll be here to support.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good
Yeah,
night.
bye. Okay, folks. Hey man, to me, this is the kind of thing I like. I'm a political
that was
junkie.
beautiful.
I'm a political junkie, and stuff like that. I don't watch TV, but I read political all the time. But anyway, guys, hey, for those that listen to Miss Huda tonight, I think she shares some great insight. Whether you support her political view or not, I just think you should get involved. November 5th is very important. So with that, the panel here will kind of try to discuss things that Ms. Huda lay out here tonight, and just say, guys, what are your take? What's your take? So I will start with Ms. B, since she's involved in she's the African political director, African immigrant director. What's your take?
So yes, liaison, African immigrant liaison to the campaign. Yes, because I really want us to get involved. But there are other really important races at stake here as well. I want to pinpoint the Osseo School District 279.
Mhm.
If you're a Liberian, you know that school district. That is the school district that has students living in Osseo, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Plymouth. I think that district has about 6 different cities. So it's not just Brooklyn Park and Osseo. So if you live in Plymouth, parts of Plymouth, if you live in
Yeah.
if you live in Brooklyn Park, you live in Brooklyn Center, in whatever Coon Rapids, I'm forgetting some cities, but your child goes to that school district. It's one of the biggest school districts in the state of Minnesota and has money. Teachers there are well paid in the school district. But again, we're underrepresented when you look at the school board right now. And so we have Kelsey Dawson, who's running for the Osseo District 279 school board. We have a school board that has 6 seats and 5 seats belong to Maple Grove residents. 5 of the 6 seats belong to Maple Grove residents. Only one of those seats is held by a Brooklyn Park resident. Whereas you'll see probably about 80% of the students in the district are probably students of color. And so it's really disheartening that Liberian students make up a large majority of the Osseo School District. We have no representation. Our parents are nowhere to be found or be involved. So when you show up to vote, because I know a lot of you will show up for the general election because you care about the presidency does not weigh as much locally. Then you need to pay attention to your local races. It's very important. Your mayor, your school board, your governor, your state representatives from House and Senate impact you more than your presidency. In the midst of COVID, the state of Minnesota had a $17.5 billion surplus. Our state is thriving. We're probably one of the top 3 states to live in, right? We have Plymouth is the best city to live in the whole country, right? But Black people are doing badly in this state. It's one of the worst states, unfortunately, for people of color. It's one of the worst states of Black people in the nation. Even given all these great numbers, giving all the economic opportunities here, right? And it's because we don't show up. We don't show up for our voices to be heard. I want to dismiss this idea of I don't want to get involved in politics. Everything is political. The city gets redistricted, that's political. How the money flows to your students, to your child's school, that is political. And we think about Crestview in Brooklyn Park, that school that is on the Zane Avenue corridor, that school has been shut down. Did we even realize that? That school had a population size of 785 students. It dwindled down to 285 students. Our kids are in that school. Kids who live in Kensington, Villa del Coronado, those are the kids that were going to Crestview. That school has been shut down. It's going to be remodeled. So now what happens? It was a local community school that kids could walk to, parents could walk their kids to. It's gone. We didn't get involved. And so a new school is getting built in Maple Grove. Why? We have 5 Maple Grove residents sitting on that school board and only 1 Brooklyn Park resident. So oftentimes we say, oh, Maple Grove is better than us and Plymouth is better than us because they have voices at the table. Our school district gets the most amount of money because why? It has the most students of color. So the dollars always follow the Black community. But when it comes down to exactly how it stays in our community, it doesn't happen because we're not involved in the conversation. And so please, parents, I know you love your kids, and I'm just going to plead with you to be politically involved just for your student at home right now that is having difficulty, that does not have the best technology at school, does not have the healthiest lunch at school, does not have the best quality teachers at school, have dilapidated playgrounds, they have buildings that are falling apart. You parents impact what that look like when you show up and you vote for your school board members and you show up and you tell them what you want for your student.
Okay, thanks for that great and just stop bashing my city. Okay. My city of Maple Grove, I mean, I'm happy that we have 5
You guys are getting
representation.
a brand new school. Like, how many more schools do y'all
You
need?
know what I mean? I'm happy that we have like 5 members representing us on that on that board. But hey, guys, any reaction to Miss B or to Miss Huda, things like that? Mel, anything from you?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched it a little bit, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it. Representation is important, and you see a lot of people that are thriving is because they have people representing them. They have their own people representing them. So we have a lot of African community here. So we should be excited that we have our own, fighting for us, going to the bowl and trying to make those decisions that will impact her or impact us positively. So if you are eligible and you are in these districts that are named District 38 A, try to do what you can do to try to vote. It's important, guys. It's important. We should not overlook the power of representation. I will close
Yeah.
with that tonight.
Okay, Titus, we have 6 more minutes there, so we just Titus,
Great conversation tonight. I think we need to do more with publicity. Look at what Ms. B was just talking about. All of these different representations. How do parents know where to go and how to engage those various community or workshops, whatever that they're hosting, whatever the city is hosting, to have some sort of representation. Where can they find those information? A lot of us don't have, access to that information. So I think we need to do more provision of information. A platform like this, we definitely need to be involved more, when it comes to providing that type of information to the community and to parents. So but thank you. It was really a good discussion.
Okay, Chairman.
Yeah, in a space of diversity, I don't usually align with a person I share the same race with just because we share the same race. And that's why I asked her some of the questions that I asked her tonight. And just hearing her, she sounds very knowledgeable of the community, of the district. She sounds and seems passionate as well. And I think she possesses some skills or the necessary skills that will be needed in order to advocate for the individual she will be representing or the district she will be representing. And so I frankly, I want to do more than just sit here. I actually want to do some door knocking because I think it's important. And I hope that you guys can consider that too. Less not because she's black, but I think she's competent and well informed and educated and very she's ready to take on this. So folks, if you're watching tonight, I want to encourage you also because I'm going to form part of this and try to do more than just sit here and ask a few questions. So it was great having her and good learning about her tonight as well.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things we do as we get closer to to November, right? This platform is very important. I mean, a lot of we are like, reaching a lot of folks out there, so we'll try to maybe get her on here 1 or 2 times again, just to get out the vote any way we can. It's like however way, whatever your political affiliation, as I said, it's important that folks vote. So with 4 minutes left, guys, we can close it up with your party message. So I will start with the lady in the room, Miss B.
Go to the Minnesota Secretary of State website. That's where you can start. You can find your precinct. You can see what seats are open. You can figure out, put in your address, go to find my precinct, put in your address, and it'll tell you who all your representatives are across the state for every level of office, and you'll see which offices are open. I want you to start by going there. Also, go to www.acerinc.org. All things civic engagement and voter engagement as well is a great place for you to go and find more information. And continue to watch us. We're going to continue to keep educating you and informing you as we get closer to November 5th. So thank you.
Thanks for getting that plug in. Titus.
Hey, I'll just say good night to everyone and to our audience. Thank you for being a part of this all important community podcast. Let's keep engaging.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. I think this platform started on the basis of being intentional with discussing things that impact us as a community. So come on here, let's discuss things that impact us positively. If you have the time and people that are interested that want to uplift the Liberian community, we've been here for a long time now. I think it's about time that we look into those things that will make our kids coming up to try to join things that will really uplift this community. So that's what this platform is all about. Inner Cycle podcast. We are here Tuesday and Thursday. Share these things we are talking about. A lot of people don't know much, but I think with the key people we bringing on board here to discuss these things will help, send a message out there. So thank you tonight for joining us. Hope to see you here on Thursday. We are excited with these things we're doing here. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, my co-host.
So it is so common for us to say, I don't want to do anything with politics. I don't want to form part of politics. I don't like politics. But every sector that we find ourselves in and the parts of our lives, the health insurance that we have and the schools that our children go to and all of those things, there are people who are influencing those things, and those are the politicians. And so we need to form part of that process that put those people in those positions so we can ensure that we are putting people there who will have our best interest. And so this is the opportunity for us to do some of those things. So folks, thank you so much for watching us tonight, and over to you, AB.
Well, you guys have said it all, so thank you so much, guys. That's what this platform is about. That's what we are here for as Mel said, every Tuesday and Thursday. So Thursday, we have a good one for you, a good one. There's a networking session happening. As it's like to the folks out here, there's a networking session happening on Thursday. So we'll be back here on Thursday with another great guest. So hope you stay tuned. Thank you. Good night.
Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite, sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. Inner Circle podcast.